race. Ladies and
Absolutely
gentlemen,
in the flesh.
Yes, Gary Michael Cappetta here for our supporters page, and I'm thrilled to be talking to Leland Race.
Well, the pleasure's mine. I can definitely say that.
And when I say I'm thrilled is because your dad and I, we have history.
For sure.
We have history.
Goes back a long time, huh?
Yeah.
A couple days ago, at least.
And I'm wondering, what are you, about 33, 34?
34.
34.
Yes, sir.
So let's see, you were about 10 years old when Harley and I were in WCW?
Yeah, around about that age.
Right?
Yeah, for me, anyway. Yeah.
When was the first
I don't know about for you.
When was the first time you saw him wrestle?
First time, with my age, is I came in towards the tail end of his career. So, one of his last, no, I won't say one of his last matches, but towards the tail end, like I said, of his career, getting to see him wrestle like the Tommy Riches and stuff like that, kind of is significant in my memory.
Yeah. And what was your first time? It's like, oh wow, this is what my dad does for a living?
Yeah, it was about 11 years old.
How did you feel? What did you think?
At that point in time, it kind of just, I don't know, for people to I guess give us a similarity to, it's just like their parents going to work. For me, up until about 10 or 11, my dad was going to work and didn't think nothing of it.
Right.
Then, when you figured out he's beating people up, and sometimes getting beat up, it's, it's way different. It takes you back for a half a minute, but then you want to see him go out there and kick more butt every single time.
Did you ever say, like, Dad, like, you beat up people for a living? Did you ever, like, talk to him about that?
No, not really. Never really came up at the dinner table.
You just accepted it?
Yeah, pretty much. Just came right about it.
And at school, I'll bet you had, once people realized that you were Harley's son.
A lot of people tested. Yeah.
In what way?
Toughest man on the face of the planet, and still to this day he is.
Yeah.
You ain't as tough as him, and it happens. And ask them what they found out. Ask them what they found out.
Yeah.
Because he before professional wrestling, I was in amateur wrestling, so that was always something I enjoyed doing. At about 11 years old, actually. When I was in 7th grade, I started that and continued it straight up to the end of high school. So going out there and I guess shocking people is always a good thing that I enjoy doing, because a lot of people don't think about the fact that smaller people, because I wasn't, he was 250, 260 pounds. I wasn't that weight in high school.
Right.
Last time I checked, anyway. So going out there and being able to defend myself when people don't expect it's always a good thing for me.
Yeah. And I'll bet you, like, some of the kids at school wanted an autograph.
Every now and again.
Would you get an autograph of your dad?
It depends.
And maybe some would challenge you and say, "Oh, you think you're so tough?" Like.
Yeah. That it didn't happen often, because it's, I was always taught, hey, look, avoid it. Be the bigger person. But then sometimes you can't avoid it.
No.
So.
Right.
You just got to do what you got to do.
Now, who is Jason Jones?
He was, okay, so when I started professional wrestling, I was 17 years old.
Yes, sir.
And nothing in life is ever handed to you. That's the way life has been taught to me. You have to go out there and earn it, right? So my dad deterred me from going out there and wrestling under my legitimate name, which is also, race, in other words. So he sent me to Charlotte, North Carolina, under George South, and said, all right, the name is going to be Jason Jones until you can prove to me that you're capable of wrestling and basically not embarrassing him. For lack of better words. Embarrassing probably wasn't the word used, but,
right.
He didn't want to have me go out there and not live up to his shoes, not live
Absolutely.
up to his level. So.
And I would think you didn't have the pressure then, too.
Yeah, exactly. By using that basically like a pseudonym, like, an author or
smart.
whatnot, I don't have to worry about that. I just go out there and I just have to wrestle. Mm-hmm. And, that was 17 years ago.
And what was the moment or the circumstance in which he said, okay, son, I think it's time for you to use the race name?
Yeah, that was back in 2013, because, a little history. I trained in Charlotte, North Carolina for 4 or 5 years with George South. Moved to Atlanta, Georgia, trained under Jody Hamilton in Deep South Wrestling for about 4 or 5 months. They got, I won't say bought out, but shut down. Their affiliation with WWE at the time had ended. And then went back to Charlotte, trained some more. Then October 20th, 2008, I came to back to Eldon, back home, and wrestled there underneath the name Jason Jones for it was 5 years, I guess. So there was a point in time where him and I just talked, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah. You know, whenever WCW would come to Kansas City, Harley would always like invite us over for some
the barbecues.
Barbecues. Harley and BJ.
Exactly.
First off, what a wonderful lady.
Yeah, exactly.
BJ,
Yeah, no,
BJ
no,
was.
for
And,
sure, for sure.
She was an executive in a bank, correct?
Correct. Yes, she was vice president.
Yeah. So that would have been your stepmom?
Stepmom. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What a lovely.
She
wonderful
was hard
person.
nosed. She was just like him. Just
Really?
just a female version. She didn't take no crap, man.
I didn't see that side.
No.
She turned on the charm with GMC.
Oh yeah, exactly. She knew when to turn it on and when to turn it off.
Yeah.
And she was about as hard nosed as he is.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
said, just a female version of it. And but nonetheless, because she was so upfront with people, that earned respect in a whole lot of different ways.
Right.
And so she was able to go out there and not be the female version of Harley Race, but people didn't always treated her with respect, and then kind of just went on from there.
Yeah, and she was probably all over the numbers and the finances.
Oh,
because of her her banking background.
Exactly. Her history in the bank allowed her to allowed him and her both to actually develop World League Wrestling and the Harley Race Wrestling Academy. So going out there, and he would be the one that would do the wrestling portion of it, and then she would do the business end of it. It was two pieces of the pie put together.
Yeah.
They got the whole thing.
Beautiful marriage.
Exactly.
Business marriage, as well as personally.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, when I was with in WCW, and your dad was there and he was managing, he had about the toughest job that I think anyone could have had, because he was at the time he was babysitting Vader. And I remember Vader had gotten into like 3 different scuffles with the law in one day, and your dad would always get called.
Yeah.
About. And then I remember when we were on tour in Europe. He also had a bunch.
He would be the sheriff, huh?
He had to be. That's a perfect way.
Exactly.
Perfect way of putting it.
Exactly.
How is your dad's health these days? How's Harley feeling?
He's 76 years old, and he wrestled for, about 45 years. So, in the conditions where wrestlers have it today, is tenfold better than back in his era.
Yeah.
Even in WCW, I didn't ever wrestle in a ring there, so it's hard for me to judge or anything like that. But even those conditions were better than some of the ones he wrestled.
Oh yeah.
And so all that stuff he did, and all the moves he took, and all the beatings that he put on people, and the beatings he took from people, definitely has, I don't want to say caught up with him, but that's about probably the best way to describe it. And all things considered, he's still 6 feet above ground, and he's still breathing, and he still knows wrestling like the back of his hand.
There's no one tougher than him. There
Not
never
by a
has
long
been, and
stretch.
there never will be.
Exactly.
And
They broke the mold.
Yeah. And there's
Until I
nobody.
came around.
There's nobody in the sport who has more respect.
Yeah,
than
and he
Harley.
garners it, and he doesn't even try.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. It goes to show that what he did for professional wrestling, not just in, but for professional wrestling, wrestlers today still have a lot of respect for him.
Absolutely.
An unmeasurable amount.
Absolutely. Well, who has the legacy that he does? And now, is it more or less difficult for you, being the son of Harley? Are people's expectations greater, or?
I learned not to let that faze me, because there's only, like you just said, there's only going to be one. There's not going to be a second one.
Yeah.
I have to make my own footprint. I have to be my own wrestler. Yeah, my last name is Race, but people, when they watched him wrestle, years ago, that was it. This time is I can't replicate that. I'm not even going to try to. So I got to go out there and be my own Race.
Yeah.
And that's what he has instilled upon me. He said, don't go out there and replicate anything I do. I mean, you could do little things here and there, but don't go out there and outright try to be the second coming. And that's how I lived my career, is don't be the second coming of Harley Race. I got to make my own, like I just said, footprint in the life of wrestling. So.
Now, if people want to follow you on social media, how do they follow you?
Leland Race on Facebook. I don't do Twitter a whole lot, but I am on there as at the Leland Race, and that's all I have. I don't do social media a whole lot. That's probably for the best. Social media is going to be the death of everything.
would you please do me the greatest of favors?
Absolutely.
And
I
extend.
can't get you a picture.
No, extend my, my good wishes to Harley.
For sure.
And I know that you pretty much run the local promotion now, right?
I don't. Me and him co-run it. I guess it's a more accurate description.
Well, I would find it to be a blessing.
For sure.
And I would find it to be wonderful in my career if you guys were to invite me down. GMC would love to come and announce a match or two.
Sure.
Down at, because I know that's it's not just wrestling. It's definitely not just sports entertainment.
For sure.
It's wrestling.
That's right. Wrestling.
Wrestling.
You got to think. And
you needed to see your face. It like lit up when I went
Yeah.
wrestling. It was great.
You need to people need to understand. We're here in Philadelphia. Just a few hours up the road is New York City. The capital of professional wrestling on the East Coast, right?
Yep.
It wasn't but maybe a couple decades ago that when the NWA was around and running and operating day to day, St. Louis was the mecca. It was the spot.
Yes.
And we're right outside St. Louis, and so we're trying to just. I was talking to somebody the other day. We're just trying to pick up the ashes of what it once was, not the NWA, but just wrestling in general, and make it to where pro wrestling is not laughed at, especially in the St. Louis area. And people need to have a respect for it and go out there and watch these competitors, because that's what we are.
Yeah.
Whether you like us or whether you hate us, we're still competitors at the end of the day.
And everything I've heard about your promotion is like right there. It's traditional, it's exciting, it's hard hitting, and it has the fans on their feet and screaming.
Every time.
So, like, what more do you want?
And what
And I want to be part of that one night.
Sure. It's always just a phone call away. GMC.
Nice.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it.
No, thank you very much.
And regards to Harley. okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody. And tonight you'll be competing in the Super 8.
The Super 8 tournament,
Yeah,
right here in Philadelphia.
You going to win this thing?
That goes without saying.
Oh, hey. I'm not going to give you any opposing view on that.
Right.
Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much, Leland.
No, thank you very much.